Bhakta ki.
Joy.
Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki.
Joy.
Dust from the lotus feet of pure devotees is conducive to devotional service, while service to the Vaishnavas is itself the supreme perfection and the root of the tender creeper of divine love. So, it's a very, very nice invocation to this kirtan, and there's a reason that it's the refrain. So, it's considered by those who understand truth that it's always moving from one heart, one softened heart, into another softened heart. So it's considered to be of such importance that almost everything else can become negligible, right? What is inside the heart of the devotee, right? So there, when we're going back, it's always remember this. And actually, we can say it's our own good fortune should we find ourselves in the presence of such a benefic, graceful, merciful, affectionate personality. And assuredly, we are here because someone was affectionate to us. So we even get to participate in this conversation together because of someone's soft heart to us, right? So we can never think that this is a negligible part of spiritual life. This is such a vital, important part of spiritual life. And so the meditation goes on and on that this emphasis is so important that maybe even the task of when we're doing something to accomplish something has to be secondary to the mood that we're doing it in. The mood that we're connecting with the person, right? Because this theme is throughout the scriptures that we don't know who anyone is. So we have to be so careful who we're dealing with because we don't know their inner heart. And so this kind of withholding of judgments from our environment is kind of like a natural filter that we're putting onto our mental system, right? We're going, oh, I don't know who has devotion in their heart. So I'm softly dealing with the environment because at any moment, such an emissary might come into I might come into contact with them. It's such a wonderfully exciting way to live your life, right? That we actually are not the final judgment on what anything is, right? Even whatever we perceive, we can say reality is a thing and what it can become, right? So the example that's used is you see a small seed and it can become this massive tree. So we don't know what's inside of the seed of someone's heart and what it can become and what they're mining in their own lives. So this value is so impressed in this particular line to keep a space within your mental system for affectionate dealings, right? And to prioritize those soft-hearted dealings and to search for them. And it's considered a wonderful thing if you find yourself within the purview of someone who's affectionately giving you some perception of reality, right? And what reality means is what is real. And we have to go on that quest. Is it real because it's these things that we're surrounded by? Is that what's real, the concrete world? Or is it the things that I'm thinking about them? Is that what's real? But then what we're thinking about is kind of changing with time. So that's a little bit untrustworthy. And then as time goes, all these things are dissipating and changing shapes. So that's a little untrustworthy. So what's the real thing? Even we see ourselves, our own bodies, going through changes very independent of our will. It's not like we're like, yay, I hope I'm really aching and have double the gray hair tomorrow, but it might happen. Right? Like, they're all happening, right? And it's independently happening. So who am I really? Am I this thing that's just kind of changing that ends up as like a piece of dust? Or is there some kind of perceiver that's within me, right? And they're saying, oh, so valuable if you find yourself with someone who has actual perception, right? That word from Sanskrit, rishi, or seer, one who can perceive, right? We want to find ourselves near someone who can perceive, and they're going to share with us something that's going to be kind of shocking to our senses to some extent. They're going to say, hey, you're searching for joy. That's natural. But where you're searching for joy, that's actually unnatural. And that's such a shock to our system, right? We're thinking like, oh, if I just have one more thing or one more relationship or one more career move or one more, right? But it's never one more. It's always just out of reach. And in the meantime, we're getting older and time is passing. So who we are is worth, that's what the spiritual quest is. Who am I really? And why am I here? And what is the nature of this place that I've been placed within? And what this particular song is happily emphasizing is try to find those divine people who have some actual perception. Listen to the words that they say and let those words wash over you and start to erode some of this tar-like judgment that we're living within, right? All of these different prisons that are inside of our own mental system that we're creating for some semblance of safety in a world where everything's changing at every moment. The certainty that we're running after is not there. It's not. At any moment, anything can happen. And our ego does a quick auto protect and quickly distracts us from this moment. And it's considered an amazing thing, right? But it's not like a morbid meditation to go, oh, I could be gone at any second. What it does is it heightens the value of the moment that you're in right now, right? That's like the beginning of economics. If there's not much of it, that means it's valuable. Oh, this moment where I'm breathing right now, where the words are allowed to come out of my mouth, has some value. And it's valuable in so much as it's connected to the divine thing, right? That's what's unusual in the environment. It's not very special that we all want to get more stuff. But what's special is if we find ourselves with someone who wants to give. What is this world of giving that's alluded to in every faith of the world? And why are they saying that giving is so sweet, so nectarian, so full of taste, that the world of taking seems like ashes? And what is the advice from that person? Can we let that land in our heart? Can we even imagine a place in our mental system where we don't have less because we're giving? Right? Because that's the nature, that's what our worry is. Our supreme suspicion is, if I give of it, I'll have less energy, I'll have less time, I'm going to be dissipating. I'm going to be more exhausted at the end of the day. I'm going to have less resources, and I'm going to ultimately have less power and control. Oh, and less certainty, because now I don't have as much power. And power means I'm going to want it, and then when I want it, I can get it faster. And that's what we consider success in the West. The faster that I want it and the faster that I can aggrandize that want, I'm really successful, right? But the bigger switch is when those things aren't actually getting satisfied. And is there a deeper world? And what they're saying in the ancient scriptures and the Vedas and all these yogis and practitioners of deep faith, they're saying it's not just like a tiny little bit better to give, right? It's not like they're really close. There's this scale that's kind of going on all the time. And to give is just a tiny bit more wonderful. They're saying it's incalculably more tasteful and sweet to learn how to give of yourself. That they're not even compared. If you actually find yourself in a world of contribution, and what the word our teacher would say is a contribution to the organic whole, right? Organic means it's alive. That means everything that we're interacting with is alive, right? The trees are alive, the plants are, everything is alive. Can we find ourselves in a way where we're actually attempting to give to whatever's happening? Oh, this person has come in front of me. What am I supposed to hear from them? And what am I supposed to speak of in front of them? And everything becomes fully purposeful instead of just like another thing that I need to control, that I need to get out of, or, we want to speed it up depending on who we're talking with, or drag it out longer if we're feeling really adored, right? There are all these like selfish lenses ultimately, right, that are kind of going on. And to see like, oh, you know what, that selfish lens, it's a prison house. And it ultimately leads to agony. That's what karma means. It's a dual word. It means I'm throwing all this energy out, but I don't really want to pay the credit card bill, right? I want to be adored, but I don't really want to adore other people. We have this kind of selfish, like, I want to give the least that I can to get the most return back. And that means that I'm really kind of cool and clever, right? And then the faithful world and the scriptures say, no, don't worry about that so much. Try to give of yourself, and you'll find that there's another place in consciousness that's far more benefic to you. He said, we must try to become liberal with that environment that is liberal so that it may become liberal to us, right? We want to also, we want mercy over justice in our own lives. But then we're looking at someone else, they're like, wow, they kind of need to get in some trouble. They've been acting bad. whatever our subjective version of that is, right? But that's like a subconscious thing that we're secretly kind of thinking. But it's like, no, we actually need some grace in our life. We're desperate for some new revelation in our lives ultimately, right? That new perception within which everything is changed. And you could say spiritual life is the quest for this transformation of perception. So maybe it's the same place. In fact, much of temple life is we're singing the same songs over and over. Yet when you're talking to someone who's living a monastic lifestyle, there's some new life in that song every time they sing it. So what is that? On the exterior looks the same. On the interior, there's another world going on, right? And so we want to mind that interior world. That's actually where we're trying to become more conscious on a subtle plane, not just always being seduced by the external plane of the senses. So, to take it back to this song that we were singing, they're saying actually this kind of thing, it's outside of what we project with our mental system. It's beyond the fantasy of what God is, right? Because we have an idea of what being spiritual is, and then there's the actually being on the quest of trying to be spiritual, and they may not look exactly the same as the fantasy, right? And so then they're saying actually the most valuable thing is when you find other soft-hearted practitioners that are graceful to you, it will come outside. We didn't even know what to want, right? Because what we want is within the purview of our plane of desires, right? And they even analyze this in psychology, based on how much money you have, you want just whatever's just outside of that range. But you're not thinking when you make whatever amount per money, you're not thinking I want a private jet, I just gotta get because that's too far. You just want what's just out of range. So what we want really in spiritual life, we don't know, because it's another world. So it has to come to us through someone else. That's the whole premise of we don't even know what to want. Because if we knew what to want and how to get it, then we would be completely full of ecstasy and happiness at every moment because our mental system provided it for us, right? So there's something outside of this little control tripping mechanism where there's some type of joy that's going to occur. And it has to be outside of what our plans are, right? Because otherwise our plans would have supplied this wonderful ecstatic connection with spiritual life, So it's this amazing thing. There's a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita. It says, Udared atmanatmanam natmanam avashadayet atmaivashatmano bandho ripur eva natmanaha. It says, the mind is separated from the body that you're in. And you're not exactly even your mind. Which, if we pause just on that, we can spend months and months or years and years or lifetimes and lifetimes, depending on how you want to go. That's a very almost shocking thing to think that you're not your mental system, that there is an observer that is even more subtle than your mental system. And you're not that thing, but it can help you or it can hinder you. And we've all experienced that. We've all had moments where we go, oh my gosh, I'm pulling out. I can observe myself in this moment and I don't have to react in that way. Oh, that means my mind is helping me. And we've all felt that part of our mind that is not helping us, that's indulging in the present moment, that causes serious repercussions in the future. And it doesn't matter what the details of it are, right? Whether it's anger, whether it's grief, whether it's this, whether it's that. All these things that the mind has these urges and it wants to feed them. So can we take that track with a little sliver of our consciousness going, oh, I don't know exactly what to want. I don't know exactly where this happiness is, and I don't know exactly how to pray, but I'm willing to throw myself on this quest to find out, despite myself, despite all the different flaws that I perceive in myself and all these kinds of complications, and throw myself on that quest. And that's what the honest quest of spiritual life is all about, to find out who we really are and what is our relationship with the organic whole. Right? To find out if giving is actually a more satisfying world in consciousness than this world that I'm acquainted with, which always needs something else. Right? That's the honest quest. So that's really what we like to talk about in this small space. That's the beginning of the gateway of spiritual life in Bhakti Yoga. And hopefully that's a helpful meditation on this Sunday.
Joy.
We actually would be offering.